Okay, our last two speakers will be Dr. Dominik Vock and Dr. Jonatan Baier. We know them, they are legal partners, but they are here because they work for a law firm which is at the forefront of these new technologies. We have already heard the name of this law firm several times. We have even seen it on the screen. And the question was whether any of these players creates real added value. And I hope they will prove us now that they are capable of creating added value.
Dear colleagues, we would like to show you now some arbitration projects. But first I have a preliminary remark. We have already heard it. A smart contract is a software, and it's a simple software. And smart contracts, they only execute and enforce themselves, so no dispute resolution mechanism is required, and we as arbitrators become jobless. That's the world of the nerds, the perfect world. But you know, reality is totally different. We have smart contracts also entails errors. The coding could be erroneous. There is a danger that third parties hack the smart contract. The parties put in incorrect data into the smart contract, and the smart contract is not able to program every scenario. For example, bad performance. What is the today practice? We have heard from more than 50 ICOs that there are certainly terms and conditions, but usually there is no arbitration clause. Sometimes you have a jurisdiction clause, sometimes you have a clause referring to the applicable law, but arbitration doesn't exist, mostly. The same applies to smart contracts. But we think arbitration is much more suitable than state court jurisdiction, and there are already some projects, and we would like to show you now these projects, but please be aware we are at the beginning. There is no project which really works, and they are a lot of nerds and they have a lot of new ideas, and I show you now how it could work, a smart contract arbitration. We have a smart contract concluded by two parties. Everything is already coded in the smart contract, and it is very important that also the dispute resolution mechanism is already coded in the smart contract, otherwise it doesn't work. So the parties are in the stage of the performance. We have, for example, the example with the car of today, and one party, the buyer, noticed that the car is damaged. So he needs to stop the whole transaction, and usually there is a button and something like that. And then here they have foreseen an arbiter machine. It's an automatic machine, and based on any algorithm, and this machine tries to find the solution. I don't know how it should work. It's an example of nerds, and has nothing to do with any lawyers who have input their thoughts in it. But I don't know how it works, but in any event, it could find a solution, and if both parties are happy with the solution, the smart contract will be amended, and then it will be performed like the parties, like the machine decided. If one of the parties does not like that, the result of the arbiter machine, she could go to an arbitrator, request for arbitration in the blockchain, and the platform provider appoints an arbitrator, and he will thereafter decide the case. If both parties accept the case, then the smart contract must probably be amended again, and usually it will be done by an arbitrator. So as an arbitrator you should have technical skills to encode the smart contract, and then it goes back and the smart contract will be performed. If, and now it's the funny thing, if the arbitrator, if one of the parties does not like the decision of the arbitrator, it can go to the state court, and the state court would then decide the dispute, and afterwards the state court decision has to be enforced in the smart contract world. So it goes to the platform provider, and the platform provider encodes the amendments into the smart contract, and then the smart contract will be performed like as the decision of the court says. So that's only an example. That's only an example how it could work. We have already heard it from Mr. Kreis. The main point is, that you can encode the smart contract if you have a decision of an arbitrator. And if you cannot encode or amend the smart contract, then I don't see any advantage of an arbitration in the smart contract world. Now I would like to give the floor to Jonatan, who will present the first project.
Many thanks, Dominik, and good afternoon, everyone. As we thought that your heads will probably be spinning this late in the afternoon based on all the technical information and all the new concepts that you've heard, we figured we might want to do it a bit more direct, a bit more concrete, and a bit more simple. And we want to present you 4 projects. But before we do that, we want to make some preliminary remarks. The first is that it's not an exclusive list of projects. There are many out there, there are many more to come, and we will see in the future which one will be successful and which one not. The second is that we do not want to market any of these projects. That's also why we've decided not to present any project that MME is involved in. And the third is really, we've heard it before from our colleague, the project he mentioned is called Code Legit from Barcelona. And it's probably the most sophisticated project out there. And it's definitely worth taking a look at it, the way they approach the whole topic. But as he has presented it, at least to a certain extent already, we figured we look at different or other ideas. So let's look at the first project we have brought along. It's called SAMBA. SAMBA stands for Smart Arbitration and Mediation Blockchain Application. And it's from the Miami Blockchain Group. That's a startup based in Miami, and it roots in the University of Miami. It might be interesting that it has an arbitration world approach compared to the other projects that we'll present afterwards. This project is really new. It was presented in March of this year, and it doesn't have a platform available yet, so we cannot access it. There's certain ideas around it, but there's also certain uncertainties. But nevertheless, let's look at the basic idea of Samba. Samba is a platform to manage and facilitate international arbitration proceedings in a secure, timely, and cost-efficient manner based on blockchain technology. So the starting point for Samba is actually a regular contract with a dispute resolution clause as we know it. We don't need a smart contract for that. The idea is for Samba to address the typical issues that we're facing in arbitration: high costs, long duration, confidentiality, but it addresses this by using blockchain technology. That's the difference. It doesn't want to replace current arbitration institutions, and it's also a big difference to the other projects. It actually wants the institutions to use their platform to work together. So it's actually focused on existing arbitration institutions. Samba has two main elements. One is the smart arbitration contracts. This means that the existing dispute resolution clause, as agreed on in the normal contract, as well as the rules of procedures, they're actually put into a smart contract. The idea is that the steps of the arbitration are automatically executed based on that smart contract, and that's the first element. The other one is actually an element that we know of quite well. It's a fully fledged platform to manage arbitration proceedings. So you can do electronic filings, there's the possibility to conduct virtual hearings, and you can also store the award on the platform. The difference here is that it's based on blockchain technology. So how does that work? First, you have to register as a party and account with Samba. Then the party must fill in basic information in a request form. And this basic information is the name of the party, the dispute resolution clause they have agreed on, as well as the rules of proceedings. The request then goes to the arbitration institution that participates or uses Samba, and if the institution accepts it, then the proceedings begin. And these proceedings are then run based on the smart contract in an automatic way by using virtual hearings, just using electronic filings, and the issues are the features that we've talked about. That's I would say, a rather traditional approach to blockchain and dispute resolution. Now we go into the more techie world. And one project that we present here, or the first one, is called Jury Online. So this is really a project that has conducted their own ICO, initial coin offering, and they have raised about $4 million US, and they've just implemented their first platform. So they're definitely ahead of the Samba project. What's behind Jury Online is it's a platform for ICO execution based on smart contract technology that includes a dispute resolution function. And we have brought you a little clip that hopefully gives you a bit of an introduction, and I hope that works now.
Jury Online is a revolutionary tool which changes the interaction between investors and ICO projects once and for all. No more promises. Instead, specific commitments by the ICO projects and unconditional financing of the project if these commitments are met. Jury Online provides independent expert arbitration for fair resolution of any dispute between the parties. The platform will increase the amount of investment in an ICO project, protect the interests and assets of the investor, ensure unconditional execution by investors of their commitments, provide a simple and effective way of making a smart contract, channel the expertise of highly qualified and independent specialists in finance, law, IT, and blockchain. How does it work in practice? The basis of any project is an idea and the team which implements it. But even the best team will have trouble converting the best idea into a quality product or service without timely and adequate funding. Efficient interaction with an investor is the key to success. The technical infrastructure of Jury Online systematizes the relationship between project and investor and puts the expertise of highly professional specialists in finance, law, IT, and blockchain at the disposal of both sides. The experts of Jury Online act as a third independent party in the relationship between project and investor. In the first place, they help to design a balanced investment roadmap, where each step forward in project implementation entails receipt of a portion of the total investment, so every new achievement of the project has its own price agreed in advance. The agreed stages of project implementation tied to specific events are set out in a smart contract, based on which the investor deposits the entire amount of the entire deposits the respective number of tokens. The verify a stage in finance project deposits are automatically notified and immediately apply their skill to resolve the situation. If the parties cannot reach a consensus or do not want to negotiate, the experts act as arbitrators. They study all the materials provided, analyse their integrity, quality and agreement with the commitments assumed by the project. Each arbitrator makes his or her own judgment on the case, and the final verdict is delivered by a majority of votes. The consequences of this verdict are return to the investor of the funds deposited at this stage, or transfer of the appropriate portion of the investment sum to the project if the stage has been completed satisfactorily, or termination of the smart contract, if this possibility is stipulated by its terms and conditions, and return of the unused investment to the investor.
So that's Jury Online. Let's summarize quickly what we've heard. Jury Online has a focus on ICOs, initial coin offerings. That's the setting they're looking at. And they want to systematize the relationship between a project and investors. Investors that want to invest money in that ICO. And that's based on a smart contract. And what they do is they define milestones for the project. And what's quite special here is that the arbitrators or the experts, they're already in place at this early stage. They help to define these stages, these milestones. So it's quite clear that it can't be just lawyers doing that. So it's also they're looking at experts in the field of IT, tech, and blockchain. And the investor then places all its money, its cryptocurrency, into that smart contract in escrow, and the same happens with the project tokens. And once a milestone is reached, then the pre-deposited funds as well as the tokens are actually transferred to the project and to the investor, unless the investor says, no, I object, I do not agree that that milestone is met. And then the experts and arbitrators, they come into play again. So they try to negotiate, mediate possibly the dispute, and if that is not what the parties want, then in the end they have to decide it. And it's a black and white decision they have to take. So either the milestone is met and then the cryptocurrency is transferred, or it's actually not met and it stays with the investor. Yes. Let's go to the next project and I'll hand over to Dominik.
Confideal, that's a platform which helps parties to create any smart contracts, and this platform also has a dispute resolution mechanism. And let's take an example. There are two parties. One is a company, and this company, they would like to renew the logo, and they go to a designer, and the designer says, okay, I will do it, and both parties agree that they will execute everything by a smart contract. So both parties go to the website of Confideal, and then the company creates the smart contract, and you see now how it looks. That's the template of Confidil. I apologize, the bad picture, it's a screenshot of the YouTube film. Confidil has a YouTube channel. If you would like to look at the whole film, you can go to Confidil, and there you can see the whole film. It's about 8 minutes. So the company who wants this new logo creates the smart contract. You fill in the public key of both parties, the name of both parties. You can also fill in the agreement, what they have agreed on, and you also fill in the price, and they also agreed that an advance payment will be made of 10%. The price is 5 either, and at the end of this template you see the arbitration clause, and which states the following: all disputes arising out of or in connection with this present contract shall be finally settled by a third-party arbitrator appointed by Confidil. I have to clarify something. Before the parties enter into this smart contract, they also already choose an arbitrator in case of a dispute. Confidil has a list of arbitrators. All who are interested in can open an account at Confidil and input their personal data, all the arbitrators, and also all of their experience. And the parties first select one of the arbitrators of this list, and if there is a dispute afterwards, this arbitrator will be appointed by Confidil. So you click here, and then you have the arbitration agreement, and afterwards you press the button, create the contract, create the smart contract, and then the smart contract will be created, and it will be sent to the designer of the logo. The designer of the logo also signs the smart contract and accepts the smart contract, and then the smart contract will be executed. First, the company has to pay the whole price of 5 either. This price goes to an escrow account of the smart contract, and the smart contract automatically pays 10% to the designer. When the designer has received the 10%, that's 0.5 either, it starts working and makes the design. When the designer has finished his work, he will send the logo to the company, and also he sends also a proposal of the smart contract that the smart contract shall be closed. The company receives then a new template, you see it here, and at the end of this template you see the proposal of the company of the designer who already provided the new design for the logo. And if the company likes the design of the logo, the company would press the button close out, and if she presses the button close out, the smart contract will be enforced and executed, which means that the payment of the rest of the payment, 4.5 either, will go to the designer, and then the smart contract is closed. But if the company is not happy with the logo, with the new logo, the company has the possibility to press the button resolve through arbitration. And then, if she presses this button, there is the request for arbitration. And the request for arbitration is, I don't like the logo, I want my money back. And then you submit it to the arbitration. You see it here, here's the button. And then Confideal automatically selects, appoints the arbitrator, which was already selected by both parties, and this arbitrator will issue a judgment and resolve the problem. And but we do not know according to which rules and how he conducts the proceedings. And there is also an appeal button. If you don't like the decision of the arbitrator, you can press the button appeal, and then it goes to an appeal arbitral tribunal, but they do not explain how does it work. So, but this is a simple example of a simple case, how it could work, and but as I said, it's already the beginning, and it's an idea how it could work.
All right, last example. It's called Kleros, and the idea is the following. It's a decentralized arbitration protocol that uses game theory, blockchain, and crowdsourcing for adjudicating claims in a fast, transparent, and inexpensive way. And we have also brought you a little clip for that one.
Paul is a designer. Today, he's building a website for Alice. When it's done, he sends Alice the invoice. But there's just one problem. Alice isn't happy. It's not how she wanted the site to look, and now Alice won't pay, which makes Bob unhappy, so now everyone's unhappy. But it didn't have to be this way. If Bob and Alice had just used Kleros, this could all have been settled. Kleros is a blockchain dispute resolution layer that provides fast, secure, and affordable arbitration for virtually everything. At the start of the project, Alice's funds are locked into a smart contract. If Alice is happy with the job, Bob receives payment. If there's a dispute, Kleros uses crowdsourced jurors to consider the evidence and settle the dispute. Jurors analyze the evidence and consider both sides of the story. On this occasion, they side with Alice and vote her to be the winner. Their decision is automatically enforced and the arbitration fees are collected, all performed on the blockchain. Freelancing, crowdfunding, curated lists, gaming, e-commerce, insurance, oracles, Scrowd. The possibilities are endless. Life isn't always fair, but Kleros is. Kleros, the dispute resolution layer for virtually everything.
Life is so simple now. Alright, so Kleros is a dispute resolution mechanism that can be applied to smart contracts. As such, it is in fact a new arbitration institution. It's a blockchain arbitration institution, which in the end competes with existing ones. The idea of Kleros is very similar to Confideal and Jury Online, what we've heard before, but maybe we have to look at the mechanism for deciding disputes as well as for becoming an arbitrator, because that's a completely different approach. How does it work? Kleros applies a new way, but it's actually an ancient way for resolving disputes in a democratic manner. It's based on the Greek system for jury selection. So as an arbitrator, you have to make an investment. You have to deposit a token in order to get selected. And the more tokens you deposit, the higher your chances are to be an arbitrator. If chosen as an arbitrator, then you have to assess the respective facts, and you take your decision, and you do that anonymously. And the parties do not know who the arbitrators are. They just select the numbers. That's all they know. In the end, it's going to be some arbitrators deciding their case. And here comes a good one. As an arbitrator, you only get your money if you've actually voted with the majority. If you've voted in the correct way.
If you're with the minority, then you don't get any payment.
The arbitrators know each other?
They do not know each other, no. This is a game theory approach behind it, which should provide incentive for a correct and honest ruling. But in the end, is there only one correct ruling? So, Claris also knows the possibility of an appeal, and the appeal decision then has an effect on all the arbitrators or jurors that have been involved in the case. So, you can possibly, in the end, lose all your investment as an arbitrator. So it's definitely a new and unique approach to it. It's definitely maybe for us a funny approach to it, but nevertheless it's out there. So let's do a quick assessment, and we've decided to do one for Samba and one for the other three projects because they have a different basic idea behind it. I think we can say Samba has the following positives. It's the idea, the general approach of making arbitration less cost and time consuming. That's definitely a plus. The automation of dispute resolution, that it's executed on an automatic basis, the proceeding. It's a very interesting one. Does that work in practice? There's a question mark. Security and confidentiality based on blockchain. That's definitely a plus to it. And we can say that Samba is compatible with the world, the arbitration world as we know it. It is in fact looking at institutions that apply Samba as a platform. But there's also certain critical points. One must really ask, does it make sense to use blockchain in such an environment, especially when we're looking at a case management platform? Blockchain only makes sense if one of the key features of blockchain, for example, that it's unchangeable, actually is an additional value to the project. If that's not the case, then there's no necessity to run that on blockchain, because blockchain also has certain technical limitations. It's not really good for handling a lot of data quickly, and it's actually rather expensive. So there are definitely better old school solutions out there for that. Now I'll hand over for Dominik for the last one.
I think the big advantage of all this smart contract arbitration is the fast and cheap proceedings. We have seen it. The request for arbitration is, I want my money back, and then you press the button and you have already initiated the arbitral proceedings. So I think we have to leave a little bit our thinking of how an arbitration proceedings really works, and probably it could work much more efficient, and also much cheaper. I think the second advantage is that you can enforce all these decisions of an arbitral tribunal on-chain. You need to encode the smart contract to amend the smart contract, but you can do it on-chain. You don't need any enforcement state judge or something like that. You don't need any enforcement proceedings. It is much more efficient. We have also seen in a lot of these projects that there is also a mechanism to rate arbitrators. I don't know whether it is an advantage or if it's more critical, but it's also an issue in this smart contract world. But we have also a lot of critical points. For example, the arbitration clause, is it valid or not? We do not know how the arbitrators conduct the proceedings in the smart contract world. Do these proceedings at the end meet the requirements, for example, of Article 5 of the New York Convention? Are the state court exclusion of the state courts? What happens if we have a decision of an arbitral tribunal? Are we in the position to go to a state court or not? Because of the validity of the arbitration clause. We have also heard that some arbitrators are anonymous. We do not know them. Is it an advantage or not? And we should also know that sometimes we do not know the parties, we only know their public key, and I think this is also an advantage. And last but not least, how do we deal if we have off-chain issues, if we have to enforce an arbitral tribunal decision off-chain? How does it work? So, people don't know the answer for that. So, if we look into the crystal ball, I think in 5 years or 10 years, I've already told you we are quite in the beginning, but in 5 years, we probably will deal with arbitration in the smart contract world. And I think the biggest challenge will be that the arbitration community is able to combine the smart contract world with the arbitration world. Thank you very much.
Many thanks for these interesting, thought-provoking and funny examples as well. We have a few minutes for questions left.
Thank you. If the result of the dispute resolution process is that a contract amendment is created, which is then fed into the protocol, and the amendment itself is again executed and enforced within the smart contract. Are we ultimately really speaking of arbitration in that context? Contractually, one can always delegate to a third person to define performance obligations of a contract or to fill a gap or to amend the contract, and that person is not necessarily wearing an arbitrator's hat. So ultimately, I could imagine the system or the flow chart you have shown could actually work out with any, let's say, judicial instance being involved, either state court or an arbitrator, and then maybe the whole problems about the validity of the arbitration clause, enforcement issue in your convention might bear no relevance.
I think it's a very, very valid point. I mean, these projects call it arbitration, but does that really equate to arbitration as we know it? Actually, it doesn't at the current level that we see it. And it's a mechanism built in to solve the issues they have in relation to smart contracts and execution. But it's not the full picture as we know it. And the question is, does that stay at this level? Does that world really need more than such a dispute resolution mechanism or a decision by a third party? Or does it go further? Is there in the end the combination of such a mechanism with all the requirements from New York Convention and arbitral proceedings that cover everything? Because you can only address the issues that are happening on-chain, and once it goes off-chain, then the whole world becomes much more complex, and then the question comes in, well, where do I end in the end if I do not have a valid arbitration clause? Then I have to go to a state court, but which state court, which are the parties? Question mark, question mark, question mark.
I think you can also say that it is something between mediation and the real arbitration. So it's a supplemental dispute resolution mechanism which automatically runs on this smart contract, on this blockchain, and at the end if there is no solution, then you have to go to a traditional arbitration.
I would like to thank you for your very interesting expose, and I was especially interested in your assessment of several examples you gave. And that brought me to this idea. My name is Michel Flamet, and I've been chairman of CIPAMI, which is the sister association of ASA in Belgium. There are now lots of projects which are flourishing over the world, such as, for instance, Juliet Online. There are lots of institutions which have, in fact, amongst their members very serious arbitrators. Now, if I look at the general conditions of Jury Online, I see that it was a corporation set up, a foundation set up in Tallinn. The definitions in the terms are given. For instance, they give a definition: founders shall have the meaning set out in paragraph 2.1. And in paragraph 2.1, I just read that the shareholders and the management board member, one member, of Jury Online Foundation is Alexander Shestov, who is at the same time one of the founders. And that's all. So when I read that, I'm not very convinced about the serieux of such an organization which just tries to get people, and that are you, that am I, but there are anybody who, giving some money to this organization, can immediately claim to be an arbitrator and to be a peer of our organization. Shouldn't we therefore have between ASA and other institutions some of those who are interested in this kind of developments, which now are at the very basic stage of development, and have looks at what they see growing in the world and make short assessments on what appears clearly not to be serious and what could have a future? That's my question.
I totally agree with you. That's like 10 years or 20 years ago with the .com. There are a lot of players in this blockchain world, and we have more than 3,000 ICOs and a lot of nice ideas, nice white papers, and from all these 3,000 ICOs, probably 50 of them will survive and the rest will disappear again. Or, I don't know. We don't know it. And of course, you have also unserious players in this world as everywhere. And we cannot know who is serious and who not.
Maybe just to add, I mean, I don't know if it's fair to call them serious or not. It's a different approach they're taking, and it's the tech world trying to find solutions for the problems they're seeing in their tech world. And of course, for us as an existing arbitration community, I guess it's important to point out what the problems are that these tech people are providing us as solutions. And there we can show what the added value is of running a proper arbitration, having trustworthy arbitrators coming to a trustworthy result. I think that's probably our duty to do that and to actually show what the different options are out there. But in the end, it's also the market that will decide what sort of dispute resolution is the proper one for whatever project we run.
And if I may add to that, Dominik already spoke about connecting the world the tech industry and blockchain and the arbitration world, I think we have to realize there aren't that many smart contracts that run at the moment. There is a strong blockchain community, which for us as lawyers, I'd say, or arbitration practitioners, is a bit of a black box because we don't know them. However, the same goes the other way. There's a community in the blockchain world, they know each other, and they also know who are the big players and the serious players. So I think the important thing about this is to connect not only the world in general, but also get the big players together, and thereby I think issues with unserious or less trustworthy websites, domains, and mechanisms will solve by itself.
If I may add something, I think your comment is well on point. The two communities are really distinct, and really the gap between the two could be very difficult. Now, in relation to the manque de sérieux of those dispute resolution providers, they have a completely different approach because they do not know anything about dispute resolution. If you take the example of Cleros, they do not have a lawyer on board. Those guys are engineers. It's a French guy, it's a Portuguese guy, they're 20, 26, 27, 28, and they're extremely bright. I had the opportunity of attending a promotional session by Cleros. And they came to present their product during their ICO, which was, I believe, it ended a couple of months ago. And they had an answer for everything. They were speaking to potential investors, people from the crypto community, the blockchain community, looking for the next best thing, the next best ICO, the next Ethereum, and obviously probably throwing a little bit of money in the tokens and then seeing how much money they will get out of it. And those investors are not lawyers either, and they don't understand the dispute resolution process in the same way that we would. And the Cleros representatives were extremely convincing because they have the technological answer to all of the questions that were asked. And at the end of the day, you end up realizing that it may work. What they're trying to do is not take ADR and adapt it to the blockchain world, but they're taking ODR. So they're taking different principles. I remember the Cleros people having a slide with a potential arbitrator, an arbitrator candidate, and that slide showed a person dressed as a Maasai soldier in Geisinger with a stick in one hand and a smartphone in the other hand, and deciding whether today he's going to be ruling on a shipping dispute or an aviation dispute or a construction dispute, which to us is complete nonsense. But to them, it actually makes a lot of sense. I asked them, what about the applicable law? And the answer was, we don't bother with the applicable law. We have a different product, we have a different concept. At the end of the day, they ended up raising 2.5 million. So, after all, why not? We don't know. I think they will burn through the money in maybe 6 months. And then at the end of the day, we'll probably go back to what works today, which is dispute resolution as it has developed and as we practice it and as we know it. Which is why I welcome the projects such as Code-Digit by Carella, because it makes a lot of sense. You're taking ADR as we know it, as it exists, and then you basically take the smart contract and try to insert an arbitration clause or an expert determination clause where you can put it, where you can see that you have the party's intent, so it's clear, and then you appoint an arbitrator or an expert that knows both coding, programming, and dispute resolution. Because you have to have a little bit of both. You cannot simply have a technological answer to those issues.
I think that's the perfect final word. You need a little bit of both, so we should, I think, try to get closer to their language, to their way of reasoning, and they might have to move a little bit also in our direction. And with this, I would like to thank the speakers once more. Thank you very much, and hand over to our president.
Thank you, Christoph. Thank you to the speakers. This has been, in my humble opinion, an exceptionally high quality ASAGM conference, and there's been a lot of work and a lot of thinking of this, and it's been thought-provoking, it's been different, and it's been taking us off our beaten paths. I'm going to go back to one of my traditional beaten paths. When I was listening to the various interventions, I was reminded periodically of the book that I read more or less recently by Yuval Noah Harari called *Sapiens: A Brief History of Humankind*. And it is a brief history of humankind, but it is an extremely thought-provoking one. One of the things that this historian writes is that when hunter-gatherers were in small communities, then communities became much bigger, and people had to interact who didn't know each other, who normally did not interact with each other, but who needed to behave in the same way. They didn't even necessarily trust each other, and the only way to get people to do that was to have them believe in what he calls fictions. A fiction is a construct of the mind. It can be the law, it can be a religion, it can be a sense of nationhood, but you get people, sometimes millions of people, acting in the same way because they believe in the same fiction. And this brings us to a fiction that we have. For instance, Bitcoin is a fiction, but that's not a derogatory remark. It is a construct of the mind, just like the law is a fiction. The Constitution is a fiction. But it doesn't mean that it's not there. One of the fictions that he cites as having been, in his opinion, the most important one, and this is, having thought about that, I agree with it, is the creation of the limited liability company. In the medieval economies, wealth would be owned by individuals who would take the full brunt of all the risks they would be taking in the development of any commercial enterprise. They would lose everything, they would gain everything. When risk began to be spread among investors who would lose only whatever they had invested in the project and no more, that leveraged the creation of wealth hugely. I have the feeling here we're in a similar situation. We're in one of these special situations where we might be tipping into an altogether new possibility for wealth creation. We don't know. Lawyers are notoriously conservative people, and we'll probably be the last ones to buy into this. Perhaps theologians or archaeologists might be shortly after us, but we'll probably be at the end of the queue. But I do think, I mean, it's here. It's not the future. It's the beginning. It's the beginning. It's not the future, and we'll see. Another thing that Mr. Harari wrote is that not all progress is necessarily progress. And he took the idea of credit. Credit is something that is very important in any economy, and is something that was relatively new, actually, around the start of the modern times. And he compared the credit of the kings of Spain to the credit of the United Provinces of the Netherlands. In the 16th century, at least in the first half of the 16th century, the kings of Spain had immense credit. They were awash with gold and silver from the Americas. The United Provinces, they had an industry, but they had practically no natural resources. Their credit 100 years later was much better. Why? Because they paid their debts on time, including the interest. What had the kings of Spain done? They didn't pay on time, and they would try to service debt by resorting to further borrowing, more or less voluntary. And if someone complained about not being repaid, they got thrown into some dungeon somewhere in Extremadura. Now, that is what's the point I'm trying to make? There were some comments in the first part of the session about the risks that are being involved here. And I have to confess, especially seeing in particular one of those clips, this is eerily reminiscent of the happy-clappy world that was announced to us approximately 15 years ago when social media was being developed. And social media was what we were being told would create new links between human beings and lead to a felicitous world where we all get to know each other and have approximately 5,800 friends each. Things didn't really turn out that way. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but things didn't really turn out that way. And I think we have to be careful here to not fall into the same traps as some uncritical thinking has led to. I don't think that will be the case. as I said, this is just the beginning. It's not the future, it's the beginning. It's for us to make sure that the traps, we avoid them in terms of dispute resolution. And I'd be really interested to do this conference again in 5 years and see how outdated we were actually today. Thank you very much. Hope to see you all on the 1st of February, on the 31st of January, at the gala dinner in Geneva on the 1st of February for the autumn conference on arbitration and corruption, which is a bit of a different topic from what we had today. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.